Tonight on the Fifth Chapter, according to reports, the Lions will hire former tight end Dan Campbell of the 0-16 2008 Lions as the team's new head coach. Is this a step in the right direction or just more same old Lions? The season is over for the Browns, Saints, Rams, and Ravens. Dennis and Brian on which of the NFL's losers from the weekend have the best chance to make the Super Bowl next season. And a major publication is just drooling over the Tigers' top 5 prospects. Just how high are they on the list, and will they meet expectations at Comerica Park in 2021? Join the conversation by commenting live on YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch. This is the Fifth Chapter with Dennis Fithian and Brian Chapman.
He represents the mitten by way of Penn State. When Chapman gets to talking sports, but people can't wait. He represents the mitten. Be a true EMU, but cut Dennis in the fall, and his veins bleeding blue. They got respect around the state. When that light turns red, so don't sleep on these dudes. Just invite your friends to cut your nap short and tip your cap for and sit back for the Fifth Chapter. Brian Chapman, Dennis Fithian. When they open their mouths, they spit in the facts, bro. This ain't even optional, man. You just have to tune into YouTube to watch the broadcast or download it to your phone to peep the podcast. They mix laughter, they get after. It's all captured in the Fifth Chapter.
That's right. Welcome to the Fifth Chapter. I am Brian Chapman. He is Dennis Fithian. We're ready to go for episode number 71, and we're just 3 days away from a huge milestone in the state of Michigan, Dennis.
What's that, where you can smoke if you turn 18?
No, it's when you can take out one of these cell phones and place your bets mobily. Noon on Friday, mobile sports betting is finally here. You don't have to race down to the casino. You don't have to use an illegal online sports betting app. You can do so right from the comfort of your home and do so legally.
Hey, who knew? 2021, man.
Yeah, that's a good start to 2021. There have been some bad things in 2021, but that's a good thing. And here's another good thing. We want to thank everybody out there who's been downloading the podcast. Obviously, you can watch the show if you're doing so right now. But for those that are downloading the podcast, our numbers have been going up a lot significantly, and we passed over 1,000 total podcast downloads here on episode as we get ready for episode 71. So thank you to all those out there who are not just watching the show, but listening to the show.
Yeah, great job, man. And hopefully, like the last time where the casino's open, where you could start betting when you went down there, like the next day the pandemic hit. Let's hope we get through Friday and get through the weekend.
Yeah, I was actually at MGM Grand Casino the day that it opened, and it was amazing. There was such a buzz in the air, and then later on in the evening, while everyone's placing their bets, you hear Rudy Gobert test positive. They shut down the final NBA games of the night, and then the season ended, and it went from this buzz, everyone's wondering, how do you place a bet? I got this bet, look, I won, to, oh crap, this pandemic is for real. And we're not going to have sports for a long time. But yes, definitely hope we don't have to shut down sports again. We're ready for 5 more fantastic chapters. Thank you to everyone who is watching on YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch. And once again, of course, to those loyal listeners on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and participate in each show if you're watching live by sending in your comments via Facebook Live and via YouTube. Dennis will be reading through those comments throughout the course of today's show. If you want to be part of the show, that's how you can do it. If you're wondering what we're going to be talking about on today's show, let's take a look at today's book. In the second chapter, we're going to look at some of the top plays from the NFL's divisional round because there were a lot of controversial plays and a lot of pivotal plays in the 4 games from the weekend. In the third chapter, 4 teams had to end their seasons over the weekend, but sometimes those teams are just one step away from having a super season. We'll tell you which team has the best chance to make it all the way to the Super Bowl next year of the teams that were eliminated over the weekend. In the fourth chapter, 5 Tigers made Baseball America's top 100 prospects list. We'll tell you where they ranked and whether or not they are overrated, underrated, or about right, and what their expectations will be for 2021. And then in the 5th chapter, it's the major wager, where we'll tell you about what we're looking at for this weekend or perhaps later tonight in terms of sports betting as we get ready for legalized sports betting legalize mobile sports betting in Michigan. But Dennis, let's start off with the first chapter, and that takes us to the same old Lions. They, of course, didn't play over the weekend because it's the divisional round of the playoffs. And we knew going into the weekend, I think it was on Friday, that reports came out that Saints tight end coach and assistant head coach Dan Campbell was the favorite to become the next head coach of the Lions. Immediately after the Saints were eliminated on Sunday, reports came out that Campbell would be officially hired by the Lions this week. Now, earlier today, they introduced Brad Holmes as the new general manager of the team, and perhaps we'll talk about his introductory press conference more on Thursday. But you look at Campbell, he didn't leave the Saints on a high note, given that he coaches on the offensive side of the ball, and his team only put up 20 points with 4 turnovers in the biggest game of the season. He's the tight ends coach, and his tight end, Jared Cook, had a pivotal fumble in that game that was recovered by the opposition. And on top of that, if you want to see exactly what transpired, we actually have the video for you of that play if you missed it. Here is what transpired, and perhaps you could say it was one of the most pivotal plays in the game. But actually, you know what? We don't have that video, so just ignore that. But, Dennis, the official announcement is probably going to come later this week. But what grade do you give the Lions for the likely hire of Dan Campbell? An A, an SOL, or somewhere in between?
Yeah, I'd give it a C. You know, the one part you mentioned on Friday, we saw the news that Campbell was likely to be the next head coach. It was just the day before that they made it official with Brad Holmes. So it was such a quick turnaround. It feels like it's an arranged marriage, and there's little red flags. This is the one thing about Detroit and GM and coaching hires. This isn't our first rodeo. We've seen these plenty of times, so we see a lot of the red flags. And, you know, the ownership's always, rolling out a bunch of different things that they say. And, you know, this time they were talking about culture. And I was like, all right, you know, maybe they're going to have Rod Wood take a step back and, you know, put him in the background a little bit, because that's the big thing. It's the cronyism with of the Fords, and Rod Wood really demonstrates that. But it seems like Rod Wood came out of this with more power than he had. And it seems like he's in on personnel decisions, which, you know, I don't like, you know, like, you're a Lions fan, you like it, you don't think they have a problem with cronyism, or you don't think that's the part with their culture that they were talking about that needs to be addressed, you know, that's up to you. But, you know, those are red flags to me. I don't like that part. You know, like, it's like everybody knows the Fords. It's actually the Fords that have a problem with the culture, and they're out there talking about the culture, but they don't understand that they're part of the problem, or they're the problem. So, you know, that's weird to me. And it does the part where, and I didn't hear every question to Holmes today, but I didn't hear how he gave the blessing, or if that was his pick. Like on Thursday, he was like, yeah, go ahead. Dan Campbell's the one. I don't know. Did he already talk with him? Did he already jump in on him? I don't like that part. You know, if Brad Holmes is the GM, you would like him to select the head coach. So, other than that, like, you know, Holmes and him and Spielman working together, there wasn't the clarity on who's making the final decisions there when they talked about it being collaborative, which makes it seem like Chris Spielman's going to make some calls, and oh my God, Rod Wood might be making some calls on some things. So I didn't like any of that, but, you know, just on Campbell being a head coach, he probably won't succeed. You know, we can all hope that he does. But, you know, it's likely that he won't. 75% of the coaches don't. And, you know, all of Lions coaches don't. But, you know, maybe he could be the one. Maybe, you know, the team of Campbell and Holmes will be the ones that are able to take this, close to the finish line. But, yeah, I'm with the group of Lion fans that, you know, they're not going to get much of the benefit of the doubt until they actually win a playoff game. You know, these red flags, they're all over the place when it comes down to this. But, you know, I hope they get it right. It's just this doesn't look very good.
Yeah, I mean, look, after thinking about the show on Thursday that we did when we were talking about Brad Holmes, I gave his hire a C-. And if you remember on Thursday, I said that my top 3 choices for head coach were Eric Bieniemy, Arthur Smith, who ended up getting the Falcons job. You were not a fan of his. And then Robert Saleh, who later on was able to get the Jets job. And the Lions didn't land any of them, obviously, and Bieniemy still hasn't been hired now that they got Campbell. One thing that I think really sticks out if you're a Lions fan, you've been alive since 2008, is that Dan Campbell is a former Lion, and he was a former Lions tight end who was on the 0-16 2008 team for the Lions, and now he's going to come back to coach them. So I think that's kind of funny. I also kind of found this interesting. Dennis, you're familiar with the Pat McAfee show, right?
Yeah.
So,
The brand.
That's the brand, and they're on Sirius XM. They also show their show on YouTube, just like us. Well, that's what they did. And here's actually a video clip of when they found out that Dan Campbell was going to be the likely head coach of the same old Lions. We'll play it for you right now.
Saints assistant head coach / tight ends coach Dan Campbell has emerged as the favorite to be the new Lions head coach.
Let's go! Let's go!
Sources tell
Them boys in Detroit are going to be running. They're going to be doing up downs for 3 months straight up there. You thought Oklahoma drills were bad. Just wait until you're chopping them until your goddamn feet bleed. Dan Campbell and Chris Spielman are going into Detroit to flip an entire culture.
Here's what we do. Here's what we get Dan Campbell, right?
Yep.
Dan Campbell talks to Matthew Stafford, says, Matthew, you're staying here. And you know what Dan Campbell does next? He re-signs Kenny Galladay. And then you know what Dan Campbell does? He drafts Devontae Smith. And then you know what Dan Campbell does?
What?
We go 10-6 and win a playoff game.
Yeah!
No chance.
I don't know.
I love the guy at the end just saying no chance after the little lion slap. He says they're going 10-6. But look, I think if you are a lion slapper, you like hearing videos like that. You like seeing that he's a hard ass and he's going to have him doing Oklahoma drills. But when I hear Oklahoma drills, I'm thinking, wait a second. Didn't Matt Patricia have them running up and down hills and all that stuff? Didn't he install a hill at the practice facility just so they could go run up and down that hill? That might not play all that well. Although what you do hear about Campbell from others around the league is that players do want to run through a wall for him and they love playing for him. So I think that seems kind of fun. But after I did my research on him, I had a similar grade to you. You gave the hire a C. I give the hire a C-. So pretty much the same thing. I look at how in 2015 he took over a 1-3 Dolphins team as an interim coach and he went 5-7 down the stretch. I don't think that's all that bad considering he was taking over a bad team, but it also wasn't impressive. He's been the assistant coach of the Saints for the last 5 years, and in the last 4 years, they've won the division, which is pretty good. You have to give him some credit for being the lead assistant coach on a 4-time defending division champion winner. And in that span, they won 11 games each year, and they won 3 playoff games. Now, the reason I can't give him higher than a C- is because A, I preferred other candidates. B, he's an 0-16 Lion, and I mean, nothing says more about SOL than being an 0-16 Detroit Lion, not just a former Detroit Lion. Also, I want to show you this excerpt from an ESPN article that I found interesting about Dan Campbell and his background, and I think it's actually been getting a lot of buzz lately since we found out that he was going to be the likely hire. If I can scroll down a little bit, you'll see right here, the 44-year-old Campbell, who has never been a coordinator in the NFL, is viewed as a what the heck? Oh, there we go. Is viewed as a motivator and someone who can bring a team together instead of an X's and O's guru. I mean, I don't know about you, Dennis, but while I don't need the head coach to be a play caller, the offensive coordinator can do that. He doesn't have to be a play caller on defense either. The defensive coordinator can do that. I need more than just a cheerleader with pom-poms. I need more than just a motivator. That's important, but I would like my head coach to be steeped heavily in the X's and O's. So for this guy to have never been a play caller, whether it's with the Dolphins or it's with the Saints, and he's looked at as a motivator in terms of a play caller, that's not a good look. And then, like you mentioned, this combination of Brad Holmes, who was 5 slots below the Rams general manager, and then he comes in, and what they said at the press conference, and this is just paraphrasing, was that Brad Holmes had a say in the head coaching hire, but obviously, if they just decided on him last week and then the day after we all find out who the head coach is going to be, he didn't sit in on the interviews with any of the head coaching candidates. Apparently, Sheila Ford Hamp said that they asked all of the general manager candidates who they would be interested in potentially hiring, or a couple of names on a list. But, that's a lot different than saying, than being able to ask your head coaching candidate questions. Now, maybe that's not really much of an issue because Brad Holmes didn't have any experience interviewing coaching candidates, but that's a problem as well. So you got yourself an inexperienced general manager, significantly inexperienced general manager, and a head coach who's never called a play and is a motivator. It just reeks of SOL to me.
Yeah, I think all of those things, those are legitimate questions. Like, it's a lot different standing over there as a tight end coach and everything else to then be engrossed in a game and you're making the final call. Are they going to go for it here in a 4th and 1 from your own 35? Are you running a fake punt? Do you like the defense that your coordinators are setting in? Hey, should I challenge that? All of these things, and you know what? He'll practice all of that. He better have somebody that can understand and is really good with time management right there in his ear, telling him what to do and how it's going to go. And I know they can have charts and everything else, but that's what it's going to come down to. That's what when you're the head coach, you got Monday through Saturday that you got to put them through the paces and have the practice and the schedule and meeting with the media. That's all good. There's a lot of good coaches on Monday through Saturday, but Sunday is when you need a head coach, when that ball is in the air, that he can figure out in real time all of the little things that need to happen during a game, who to pull in, who to pull out, when to go for it, all these things. It's great to be surrounded by coordinators. It's great to be surrounded by some timekeeping or game management guru too. But if you're able to have all those and pull all those things and get it immediately in, we don't know. But when you say, like, yeah, he's not really into all the X's and O's, more of a rah-rah guy. X's, more of a motivator guy. That's what we're going to have to see. How's he going to be on game day? I think he'll be able to handle all the other things. Game day, what's it going to be like? Matt Patricia was terrible at that. Jim Caldwell was terrible on game day. Whether the challenge, when they call the timeouts, all those things.
Knowing the rule about the batted pass in the back of the end zone or batted ball in the back of the end zone.
Yeah, get a rules expert. Having somebody to be able to get that information out there, that's going to be the biggest thing for Dan Campbell.
Well, that and making sure that he has some prominent offensive and defensive coordinators. Now, we did find out that or at least according to a report, that his new defensive coordinator is going to be someone he knows already, and that is the Saints defensive backs coach. Now, obviously, that's not a guy who has any experience calling plays, but most of the time when you're going to be a defensive coordinator, you're going to be, and you're getting an upgrade, from a positional coach, or perhaps you're getting an upgrade from a college defensive coordinator or something like that. So I'm okay with that, although you would, I guess I'm okay with that just because they have a camaraderie and a chemistry together, having been in the same locker room, and he felt comfortable with him. But the offensive coordinator is going to be huge too, because Dan Campbell just doesn't call plays, hasn't called plays, has never called plays.
Yeah, the defensive coordinator is going to be the big one, because we know that Patricia had his amoeba scheme specific defense. And the guys that he drafted, guys that they picked up in free agency, they were like, are they too rigid just for, can they play? And now this Aaron Glenn scheme, or are they going to have to blow a bunch of different guys out there and deal with some cap issues? I can't believe that, Aaron Glenn right now is looking at any film and thinking, oh yeah, Tavai, this guy's going to be a nice centerpiece of my defense. He's going to let's get this guy out of here. So there's a lot of that. And so he's going to have to be really good.
Well, we were both, not just we, but everybody was in agreement that Matt Patricia was a terrible head coach, particularly with the defense. So I would think that no matter who you bring in defensively, it's going to improve. Because if Matt Patricia's the absolute worst, and the Lions had the absolute worst defense in the NFL, if you bring in a guy with no experience, then he should be able to look at the pieces that you have around him, even the bad pieces, and say, well, actually, this isn't an F player. this isn't an SOL player. Maybe we've got ourselves a C player. Or maybe this guy isn't a C- player. We can perhaps coach him up into being a B+ player. Let's not forget, when guys like Darius Slay and Glover Quinn and some of these other guys left the Lions, they laughed and they made fun of the team because of the terrible schemes that were run. They might have thought that they had the players to get things done, to put together a better defense, but the schemes were so bad that they didn't have a chance to put a respectable product out there. When you had, there was one report about a wide receiver like making fun of one of the Lions defensive backs because they were so predictable. So if this new defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, can come in and just do a serviceable job, then perhaps the bad talent that we've been looking at won't look as bad. I agree that they need more talent defensively, but the coaching was a significant problem defensively, which is why they dumped Patricia.
True, and since they were the worst defensive line in history, I mean, there's only one way to go. So
yeah.
He's walking in. You could say he's walking into a terrible situation, but like coming in and not alienating his players, he's going to do a good job. So
yeah,
you can make the case that he's, going to be an upgrade for sure. All right, feedback time. You can do this during the live chat, Facebook, Twitch. You can do all of those things. I got Facebook here right in front of me. Got a lot of people watching on Facebook, but you can message in there as well. Here's the live chat. People buzzing on here, and let's see here. Roger, first one up, says Holmes and Campbell should take Kyle Trask at 7. You need Stafford's replacement. If he's not there, take the highest rated offensive lineman. What do you think of Rodgers' plan?
Yeah, no. Nobody thinks that Kyle Trask is worthy of being a top 10 pick, and I think that most mock drafts don't even have him in the first round. So if you want to talk about taking a quarterback, I think that's understandable, but not Kyle Trask.
Yeah, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, or, of course, Justin Fields, if he falls to 7. Those are the 3 guys. I think I've seen some Trask in the first round, but not in the top 10.
Yeah, if you want Trask, perhaps you can get him in the second round with your top 10 pick in the second round, but first round, no.
That was from Roger. Keith says this is typical SOL. Who knows? Why I keep bringing unknown guys in with no experience. I'm rooting for the black GM as I like seeing us get a chance. However, the organization has always needed a complete overhaul. Seems like you should bring in experienced guys for GM and coach and clean this crap up, and then maybe bring in the next best thing. Dan Campbell was a bad hire.
Well, look, I don't have an issue with bringing in a guy who's never been a general manager or never been a head coach, because oftentimes if you've been one of those in one of those positions, you got fired for doing a poor job. Like Matt Patricia is a former head coach. You're looking to bring him back. Rod Marinelli is a former head coach. Nobody's looking to hire him right now. The issue is that when you look at Brad Holmes, he was so far down on the depth chart. Now, I get that everybody in the Lions, from Disner to Wood to Spielman to Sheila Ford Hamp and all that, were so impressed with his interviewing and all that. But when you think about all the things that he didn't do, that he wasn't a part of with the Rams, that is an issue. And then when you match up a guy with Dan Campbell, who's never called the play and is not looked at as an X's and O's guru, that's a problem. I don't have an issue with. I mean, being an assistant head coach is, you could argue, is a bigger responsibility than being an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator. But never having called a play, that's a head scratcher to match him up with Holmes.
Well, for people that like to look at the Lions, the ownership, the Fords, as being the biggest problem, and the one that they don't understand, that they're actually the ones, when people are talking about the culture, they're talking about clean it up, and they don't know. They have hired. There's this Terry Foster wrote a blog. I don't know if you read that this week. It's like, there's a reason that the Lions always hire a GM with no prior experience, so they can come in and roll that Ford stuff at them, like, hey, you need to kiss our ass, and this is, it's basically, you need to kind of bow down to us. This is the way things get done around here. We're not only your bosses, man, we really need you to lay it on thick. That's how it works with the Fords. And when they kept talking about culture, but they weren't getting rid of Rod Wood. I'm like, they don't know that they're the problem. And so, but that gets down like, if you think the Fords are sabotaging themselves because they've got to have the one up on the GM, or they want to mold them so they can be looking down on them. Is there a chance that is taking place? Yeah, I mean they left Rod Wood. Like, if you wanted to appease the fan base, it's not that much. We're not talking about taking money out of the guy's a multi-millionaire. Talking about Rod Wood, he came as an accountant. He wasn't like groomed to be some like football genius, and he's out here running everything. And he embarrassed himself when he took the podium, and Martha Ford put him out. We find out that damn near a 100-year-old woman and a guy who knows nothing about football were the brain trust last time around that made the pick. I mean, here we are. Like last time, it's like, oh, let's give him a chance and everything. We had these two. You could have pulled anybody off the street. And had them, making the selection last time around. You didn't even have to know how to spell Lions or anything about football. So, there's a lot when you have all these red flags and this inexperience. Like, Lions aren't getting the benefit of the doubt.
No.
Like these Lion fans, like, you're a hater. Rod Wood does a good job. It's like, okay, well, you're part of the problem.
Good job at what? If you want to talk about winning, he's not doing a good job at winning.
There's a lot of Lion fans that think that people overblow the Rod Wood stuff because they're always they just hate him. No, it has to do with the cronyism, and this is how the Fords run things.
Yeah.
This time around, they said it was going to be different. They were changing the culture, but they don't understand they're the ones. So,
well, they changed things up. Yeah, they changed things up by hiring somebody who, I mean, think about the recent general managers for the Detroit Lions. Outside of Matt Millen, this is the least experienced guy, because you look at Bob Quinn, and he was the number 2 or number 3 guy with the Patriots in terms of making decisions. You look at Martin Mayhew, at least he was the assistant general manager to Matt Millen. Now, you could say he wasn't learning from the best, but he was making the big decisions. And Matt Millen, he came from TV, so there really wasn't much experience there. But that's becoming more of a trend. It's just everybody happens to be more successful than Matt Millen when it comes to running a team. You bring in this guy that's 5 slots below the Rams. That's different. Is that necessarily a good thing? Probably not. And then, I don't understand why there was the rush to hire Dan Campbell or to make the decision on Dan Campbell so quickly after hiring Holmes. Did he even get a chance to watch the video of the interview? I don't know that. Now, maybe they have some sort of relationship because they've met on, they've met at the combine and they became friends. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about that. But you would think that after you hire the general manager, why not at least give him the weekend to look at some look at the tape of the Zoom interviews that they conducted and perhaps participate in a second interview. But it seems like Holmes had a very small impact. And this was, I know you like to talk about Rod Wood. This seems like a Spielman-driven decision because Spielman is the football guy. So if this goes wrong, and it will, Spielman's the one to blame.
Yeah, I don't like any of that. Hamp doesn't seem like she's very self-aware, just like her mother and just like her father. I mean, this is a problem. It really looks like an arranged marriage. Okay, just like you're saying, it seems like Spielman did this. Why not take the weekend and at least make the appearance that, Holmes was really in. Maybe Holmes was going to talk to the guy beforehand. Maybe Holmes didn't feel like he was forced into it, even though he said when he was in his interview, here are the couple of coaches. Oh, hey, he's got Campbell on his list. I didn't like the timing. I don't like the feel that, it was an arranged marriage. And I don't like the lack of self-awareness with, Hamp, who, is over there talking about culture. And instead of just taking Wood and putting him over here, she's giving him more power. I mean, what could go wrong? Everything could go wrong. This has got a lot of the markings of same old Lions. But
yes.
You know what? It's not they say, well, you're really negative. I mean, it's what do you want me to say? What do you want me to sit around here Brad
prove
Holmes,
us wrong? That's what the Lions have to do.
Brad Holmes has got a chance, right, in the draft. He's got a chance with the amount of cap money that he has to construct this roster. If he's making the final decisions, Well, we'll see. And Campbell, we're going to see how he handles things. But going in, anybody rolling out, the like, oh yeah, really like everything that's going on here that they came up with, is probably working for the team. They're getting paid, some way. Or is always going to be that Lions slap. There's just like, I don't, what? Call us anything you want, but just make sure you call us loyal. I mean, that's what most of the Lions slap fans say. So, I'm a Lion fan myself. So what can I say? I feel like, I'd like to give them. It's not like giving them the benefit of the doubt. I can't give them the benefit of the doubt.
No,
you're stupid if you give them the benefit of the doubt.
All right, Dennis. Let's turn the page to the second chapter.
All right, and we'll keep reading the feedback. We had a lot. I just started, I get one feedback.
Well, let's get to a couple more then before we turn the page then.
Okay, Sideshow Rod saying Aaron Glenn named as the new DC. I have no problem with the way everything is being constructed so far. Let's not burn down the house before it's fully built. Raj giving them the benefit of the doubt.
Well, let's also not call it a beautiful mansion before we see them finish the foundation.
Ray Chapman. Oh, no, it just says that was from Brian Jelinek. Chapman, who did you want to get the head coaching gig? Question.
Oh, once again, my top three were Eric Bieniemy, Arthur Smith, and Robert Saleh. The last two on that list have been hired. Eric Bieniemy has not been hired. He appears to be one of the finalists for the Texans job. There's obviously some questions there with their culture and whether Deshaun Watson is going to stay, and it appears that he does not want to stay. But Eric Bieniemy has not been hired, and the Lions decided to go with Dan Campbell.
Ray, Saints had a good defense this year too. Glenn was a good hire. Glenn might be a good hire.
Mm-hmm.
Trubisky made fun of Detroit too. Michigan's up 42-25 at the half. Ooh.
Yeah, they're back.
Looks like a little bounce back from the Wolverines.
Yeah.
Dynamite Dan. Is that what we're calling it? Dynamite Dan Campbell? Wick going there. All right. Yeah, there's some of the feedback on talking about Dan Campbell and the combination of Brad Holmes as general manager, Campbell as head coach.
All right, now let's turn the page to the second chapter.
Yeah, that gets us a chance to look back to the 4 divisional games this past weekend. And we thought that this was a pretty easy exercise. Chapman sent me a message saying, hey, what were the 3 biggest plays to you over the 4 games in this divisional round? And they came to me just like that. What did you come up with the 3 biggest plays that made a difference in the divisional round?
I thought the most, and there were, I thought, a lot of plays that could be in this. In particular, several plays from that Chiefs-Browns game. But for me, the number one play, the most important play, was the pass to Jared Cook that Antoine Winfield punched out. And this is also kind of funny because Jared Cook is a tight end for the Saints. And who was the tight ends coach for the Saints in that game? Dan Campbell. So he's going to teach T.J. Hawkinson, the Pro Bowler, how to fumble the football. But the Saints had a 20-13 lead in the third quarter. They had just scored a touchdown on their previous possession to get that 7-point lead. That they complete a pass to Jared Cook, obviously because Breeze was throwing the football. It was a dink and dunk because that's all he could do. And the Saints could have continued on that drive, gone up by 10, 13, 14, whatever. Instead, after he caught the ball, Winfield punched the ball out, and the Buccaneers recovered on the Saints 40. A few plays later, they scored a touchdown to tie the game. If the Saints could have gotten through that drive and gotten a touchdown to go up by 13 or 14, that game looks a heck of a lot different. They're up by 2 possessions. They could just run the ball, play conservatively on offensively, and not have to worry about Breeze throwing another interception and use that great defense and won the game. Instead, yes, there were a lot of interceptions, 3 interceptions by Breeze, and they kept on giving him great field position. But that was an opportunity right there to put a struggling team pretty much away. So that was number 1 on my list. Was that on your list?
That was on my list. That was the turning point of the game. They end up getting that one, at least getting a field goal there. What, they're going to be up by 10 points, you said? So, I think the game's over there. it was a great punch out there by Winfield Jr. and it was the turning point of the game. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, my number 2 was Lamar Jackson's pick 6. End of the third quarter, Ravens are driving down 10-3. Finally, they get something going, and Jackson throws a pass into the end zone into traffic, and it wasn't just picked off. The Buffalo Bills took it to the house, and you look at the Ravens. They go from either cutting the lead significantly or tying the game to being down 14 points on a night when there was only one offensive touchdown in the game. That was the final score of the game, but there was one offensive touchdown. It was by the Bills, and then there was that touchdown.
Yeah, that one's number 1 on my list as well, the pick 6. I mean, obviously the turning point in the game, 101-yard return like that. And that was it. They're able to score there. It's way different. How he didn't see him, I don't know. But yep, on my list as well.
And for my number 3, I was decided between 3 different plays from that Chiefs-Browns game. There was the Chad Henne run for the first down late in the game. There was the Patrick Mahomes concussion, and then there was the Browns fumble out of the back of the end zone for a touchback. And obviously, if it had been fumbled at the 1-yard line, the Browns would have kept possession. I ended up going with the Patrick Mahomes concussion, and here's why. Obviously, the Chiefs were dominating in that game at the time he got hurt, and after he suffered the concussion and left the game, they added on a field goal to go up 22-10 in the third quarter, and the Chiefs didn't score again. It put a lot of pressure on Henne to win that game and not make too many mistakes. He did throw that interception, but they won the game. But the reason I say that was the third most important play, and more important than the Browns fumble out of the back of the end zone, which is extremely important, and Chad Henne's run for a first down, is because it puts the AFC Championship game in doubt. Sometimes with a concussion, you get a guy that can be back in practice. Who knows? Maybe Mahomes is back in practice tomorrow. But if his symptoms linger, then he might be done for the season because their season might be done on Sunday. I don't think that if Patrick Mahomes can't play, that Henne's going to lead the Chiefs to a victory at home against Buffalo.
Yeah, remember the Henne run was almost a first down.
I'm sorry,
Tony Romo thought it was a first down. I thought about that, or the next play where everybody thought, again, Romo, like, I don't know, Jim, they're just going to kill the clock. No, they were going to go and throw it to Hill with 6 seconds to go.
That was a great
on the play clock. It was great. It was. They caught him kind of napping there, and gutsy. I don't know if Reed had won the Super Bowl last year, if he's going to be there at the 50 making that call, but he made it. It worked, and it was awesome. But I go with the one that you were thinking about, the Higgins fumble out of the end zone. That's a huge. We compare the Browns to the Lions a lot for good reason. That felt like something that would have happened to the Lions if they were in position, in a playoff game to win. They would have done something like that. But I also like it because it just makes everybody so mad. Honestly. Do I think that they could change the rule to make it give the offense the ball back at the 20? Yeah, I think they should do that. But, there's one part, like, it's not like these teams don't know that. Like, they just woke up and, like, oh, my God, that's, so terrible. Like, no, it happens. And we see it happen, during the season. It's not as stupid as guys that, like, drop the ball before, they go into the end zone because that's really stupid. But these guys know, like, teams like the Patriots, Bill Belichick doesn't want his guys, leaning out there. And the other part, you don't like it is very punitive towards the offense. But if they changed it, would you have guys then, just like throwing the ball at the end zone, like an unintended consequence?
They wouldn't do that because if they do what you say and they get the ball at the 20-yard line, then they would be losing like 18 or 19 yards in an effort to do so. Whereas if they were just tackled at the 1-yard line, then they would have first and goal at the 1, or if that was their first and goal play, they'd have second and goal at the 1. I don't think you'd have guys just throwing it into the end zone.
Well, getting it at the 20 is a heck of a lot better than having it turn over. When you're thinking about 6 and then you have to settle for 3. Okay, but when you're thinking about 6 and you fumble it out of the end zone and turn it over, that's a killer.
Well, maybe if they get the ball at the 20-yard line, they do so without a fresh set of downs. If that was your first down play, then all of a sudden it's second and goal at the 20-yard line. I don't know. Like it does seem like a stupid rule, because if you fumble the ball 1 yard sooner, you fumble the ball at the 1 inch line and it goes out, you keep possession. But instead, because of the way the ball bounces or whatever, because of your momentum, you lose possession of the football. Like the Chiefs didn't possess the football and they got it. It's strange. They didn't possess the football. They didn't recover the ball. It went out of bounds, and yet they get rewarded with it. I mean, it's like it's almost like there should be a jump ball, which happens in basketball, or a puck drop, which happens in hockey. They don't have anything like that in football, and it would be kind of stupid to have the referee come out there and do a coin toss. But it's for the Chiefs to not recover the football but get the football is odd to me. It doesn't make sense to a lot of people.
No, and I'm with you on that. I would change the rule. I also think they need to, just like on the quarterback hits, I'm totally for being able to review those and being able to pick up the flag. I also think they should be able to review in a situation like that. That was clearly the guy was leading with the crown of his helmet. They should be able to review that and be able to do something. The one thing, and I saw it, I don't remember exactly which game, sometimes they run together, but it happened at least twice where there was a flag thrown on a player for, it could have been a late hit or a fumble or even a helmet, and the refs get together and they end up picking up the flag, but when we watch it on the video, they say, oh, I think they get communication from up above where they're going.
They were talking about that. The commentators are talking about that during the game.
Yeah, I think they get help from they should be able to do that on other things as well. Like if these guys see it, let's just get them down there and get the right information and throw the flag, rather than having to go and look at it for 10 minutes or something. If
that would create so many conspiracies, because if that happened against the Lions, fans would be saying, "Oh, somebody just called in and said nobody cares about the Lions. They're getting screwed."
It seems like they're doing it now. I mean, that's the point. Like I would have to go back, and there was at least 2 instances like it really seemed like that they're getting help from a review booth. Mm-hmm. And then they're picking up the flag. It's like, that's what it seemed like to me.
Well, and Lions fans know a thing or two about flags getting picked up in the playoffs. What kind of feedback are we getting?
Well, first we got an update. Brian Jelinek on the Red Wings and Blue Jackets. No score after 1. He just posting
some more
that.
Victory.
Raj says, I think Aaron Rodgers gets his 2nd Super Bowl. I got Green Bay winning it all.
Same here.
Rashad Higgins fumbling when he stretched out for the end zone. Biggest play. Ishmael, Saleh didn't want to coach the Lions? Question mark. Well, I don't know. What leaked out after the Saleh interview is that he didn't interview all that well. Right?
Well, if I were Robert Saleh and I know the history of the Lions, I might not want to interview all that well, because, look, I guess there's no harm in interviewing well, but I wouldn't want that job over the Jets job. I wouldn't want that job over a lot of jobs because of the way things are with the Lions. And if you get the number 2 pick, a lot of people like the pressure of being in New York City. They think it's cool to be in New York City. I would rather have that Jets job too. Perhaps he came into that Lions interview knowing that the Jets really wanted him, and he was just doing the Lions interview as a backup job, a backup interview. I don't know. I mean, the Lions should have hired him over Dan Campbell anyway.
There you go.
Especially after the Richard Sherman endorsement.
Let's move on.
All right, let's turn the page to the 3rd chapter. And that keeps us in the NFL and takes us to some of the losers from the weekend. Oftentimes we talk about the biggest winners, and we'll have an opportunity on Thursday to talk about who's going to go to the Super Bowl. But what about the losers for this past week? You got the Browns, you got the Rams, you've got the Saints, and you've got the who's the fourth team? Oh, and the Ravens. So they made the final 8, and that suggests that they have a shot to get to the Super Bowl next year if they're on the rise. But a lot of folks are saying, for example, like the Saints, they're not on the rise. They had their one last hurrah, and they failed. But Dennis, when you look at those 4 losers, Browns, Ravens, Rams, and Saints, which team do you think is most likely to play in the Super Bowl in 2022?
Yeah, well, it's between 2 teams, and if I have to pick one of them, it seems like the Browns, which is the really weird thing to say. The Browns, they seem like they have the best personnel here. The one thing, the other team I would say is the Ravens, but the Ravens have to figure out their passing game. I think what they need to figure out is they need to get bigger wide receivers, and then and also more tight ends. Like Lamar Jackson loves throwing in the seam. Hayden Hurst got hurt. That was big for them. He loves Mark Andrews. I know they signed Des Bryant because he's kind of a 50-50, but Des Bryant's 157 years old. Hollywood Brown's a nice wide receiver, but they need big wideouts and then a big tight end. I like the running game. Their defense is really good, and it seems like it's easier to say the Ravens because Lamar Jackson was an MVP, and you get them that personnel, they would be right there. But I just think the Browns actually have a better team than Baltimore, which is really weird to say. Those other teams, Jared Goff, they were going to put in Holcomb or whoever that cat was that I'd never heard of. Mm-hmm. They're down on Goff, and the defense is fine, but remember, man, they poured all their money in to go for it now. They don't have a lot of draft picks or anything else that they're going with, and they're up against it when it comes to the cap. So I'm down on the Rams, and you said it. I mean, the Saints are going to be in a rebuild. You think Jameis Winston or
Taysom Hill?
Yeah, Taysom Hill's going to be the starter or something. I don't see that, so I'll go with in an upset. And it sounds weird saying, but I would say the Browns.
Well, I'm going to rank mine from least likely to make the Super Bowl next year to most likely, and I've got the Browns as the least likely to make the Super Bowl out of the 4 losers. They won a playoff game, and that's good, but, number 1, they're still the Browns. Number 2, they play in a very tough division because they're in the same division as the Ravens, who are obviously on that list. They're in the same division as the Steelers, who won the division, and they've got a quarterback issue. Is Ben Roethlisberger going to retire and all that? But they still had one of the best defenses in the NFL for most of the year. And, it's hard to advance to the Super Bowl if you don't win the division. And I think it's going to be very difficult for the Browns to do so. It's been a long time since we've had a team that wasn't a number 1 or a 2 seed advance to the Super Bowl. So if you're not doing that and you're not winning your division, you're talking about winning 3 road games in the playoffs. That's hard to do. You look at the Ravens, I have them as a 3rd most likely team, so 2nd least likely. They've got a great defense. They've got a great coach. And I think you hit all the points about the Ravens needing a better passing game. They need a true number 1 wide receiver. And they're in that same tough division as the Browns. If they can get home field advantage, if they can win the division and they can be a 1 or a 2 seed, that would help. But they're in a very tough division. Number 2, obviously the top 2 teams are going to be the NFC teams. A lot of people are down on the Saints. And I guess they have some cap issues to resolve, but they're still a very good team. They were the number 1 seed for most of the season in the NFC, and they had that great defense. This is a team that was led by their defense. Is their defense going to go into the porta potty because Aaron Glenn left to become the defensive coordinator for the same old Lions? I don't know. Probably not. They still had the front 7, which he was not coaching. But their defense was the best in the NFL for large portions of the season. And if you look at what doomed the Saints ultimately, it was their quarterback play. In the wild card game, they were obviously able to win. But in the divisional game over the weekend, it was the quarterback play. And I think that based on how poorly Drew Brees played, their quarterback play can improve by swapping out Brees and going with somebody like Taysom Hill or somebody else out there. When they had Taysom Hill starting games for them during the season, it's not like they fell off the face of the earth. They were actually continuing to play well. So if they had average quarterback play, I think they would have beaten the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers didn't have, lights out offense. They were getting the ball, on the plus side of the field time and time again. They didn't rack up 500 yards of offense to put up 30 points. So I think if they just get average quarterback play with their strong defense they had last year or throughout the year, plus a healthy Michael Thomas, then they could be right back there. And I think the team that has the best chance would be the team that was most recently in the Super Bowl, and that's the Rams. They were in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. They had the best defense in the NFL. They weren't at their best during the course of the game against the Packers because, in part, because Aaron Donald only played about 53% of the snaps. 53%, where typically he's playing 90% of the snaps. That allowed Rodgers to have more time, and that also allowed the running game, which was a big key to the Packers offense, having really matador defense. There was not much of a challenge from that defense with Donald, I guess, being hurt and playing about half of the snaps. Goff is not great, but he was their quarterback 2 years ago, and he's going to be healthier, you would think, next year. They also didn't have Cooper Kupp, and I think that hurt their passing game. Their biggest issue could be the division with Arizona, Seattle, and San Francisco as solid teams there. But I like the Rams because of their defense and because Goff, he was playing hurt, and they still were able to win a playoff game.
Our lists are 100% different.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
That's pretty good.
What do people say on the feedback?
Well, let's see. Fithian's list is better. I just made that one up. This one says that rule from Keith about going out of the back. It says it makes sense if you fumble at the 1, you get the ball at the 1. When you cross the goal line with possession, touchdown. So if you fumble into the end zone, if the defense recovers the ball in the end zone, touchback. I think it makes sense, and it is consistent.
Well, but the difference is that nobody recovered the football. This wasn't the defense recovering the football. Nobody recovered the football in that Browns versus Chiefs game, and they just gave it to the Browns. Gave it to the Chiefs.
Yeah, it makes sense to put it back in the 20 to me, but it's been that way. We've been arguing this for years.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that. We're coming up. Tigers, 5 of them made Baseball America's Top 100. We are getting to that straight ahead.
4th chapter.
Ray says he likes the Aaron Glenn as DC. Catherine says, from what I understand about Eric Bieniemy, he has too many issues and a very bad past that people can't seem to overcome when it comes down to him as a head coach.
What are those issues?
He's pushing around a woman or something 20 years ago, or something like that.
Oh.
I mean, it's out there. He had some. No, it's not. That could be the reason. Interview.
Of course, they didn't fire Patricia after the rumors that came out a month after he got hired.
No, look, it seems like people are trying to make he doesn't call plays. Well, neither did the last 2 guys that are there that ended up getting, head coaching jobs. Well, he's a bad interview. I don't know. It's a surprise that he's not there. Catherine listens to the radio all day. Doug and Gator are her favorites. She hates Valente. He's just mean and a hateful person. She likes Jansen being on the morning show. So there you go. Little feedback from Catherine rolling in there. I understand that. Chapman works there. I used to. So people are going to associate us there. Throw some opinions out about the show hosts. I get it.
Yep, that happens all the time. People say, hey, what do you think about this guy? I can't stand this guy. Do you believe what this guy said? I just kind of nod my head and shake my head. I don't approve or I don't endorse what they say. I don't argue with them because I know people are saying the same thing about me, and that's just part of the deal.
People really hate and love Mike and Pat. That's been my experience over the years.
Yeah, well,
one or the other.
If you're not hated or loved, then you're ignored, and that's a problem. That's the biggest problem.
I want to be ignored. All right.
Let's turn the page now to the 4th chapter.
Ooh, in the aforementioned Tigers, Baseball America came out with their top 100 flaming hot top 100, and the Tigers put 5 names on that list, not just inside the top 100, chap, but the top 31. They've got 5 names. Let's talk about who you think might be a little bit overrated or underrated with the 5 names of Mize, Manning, Skubal, Green, Riley Green, and Torque, who was the number 1 pick last year.
Yep, Torkelson is number 5 on the list. You got Tariq Skubal, who's the number 20 overall prospect. Casey Mize, number 28. Matt Manning just behind him at number 30. And Riley Green at 31. So, yeah, like you said, it's not just being in the top 100. It's 5 of the top 31, according to Baseball America, very highly respected baseball publication, perhaps the most highly respected, right up there with Baseball Prospectus. I'm happy, obviously, that Baseball America thinks so highly of these prospects, but from what I've seen, at least of the 2 that made their debuts, it's hard to agree with that. And I'll start with the 2 that made their debuts last year, and those would be Tariq Skubal and Casey Mize. Skubal was at 20, and I would say that he's overrated. He was terrible last year in his debut, did not have good control, a 5.63 ERA, gave up 9 homers in 32 innings pitched. And you look at what he did in the minors last year, or 2019, gave up 7 in 122 and a third innings pitched. That's a significant drop-off. I know a lot of folks like to say, well, let's give him a pass because of the pandemic. Let's give him a pass because he's just a rookie. You can't do that because of what transpired right here in the AL Central. You had guys like Brady Singer of the Royals make his debut and had a 4.06 ERA. You had a guy like Tristan McKenzie, the stick figure for the Cleveland Indians, a 3.24 ERA. You had Dane Dunning of the White Sox come in with a 3.97 ERA. They were all pretty good, or in the case of Tristan McKenzie, great. They didn't get a pandemic pass. They didn't have he's just a rookie. So you can come in right away and pitch well, but Tariq Skubal was pretty bad, and he was overshadowed by Casey Mize, who was a higher rated prospect and was even worse because his control was atrocious. He was famous for that split finger and was rolling basically grounders to the catcher because it was bouncing so much in front of the catcher on a regular basis and so far in front of home plate. He had a 6.99 ERA. He walked 13 guys in 28 and a third innings pitched. He had 5 hit batters. And so like Skubal, I'm not giving him a pandemic pass because of some of the other guys just right here in the AL Central that had either good or very good years. I'm not giving up on either of those 2 altogether and saying they're going to be complete busts, but to talk about them being top 30 prospects after their major league debuts, that seems like they're overrated to me.
Yeah, I mean, the one part that's hard about it, like, they should have been up before, maybe to get their feet wet, but no, they showed there's a couple times there were some flashes there, but it just goes to show you, like, if Torkelson was up and was fanning at everything, he's like, this guy doesn't look like no first overall pick, and Riley Green, man, this guy doesn't look like he's the 5th overall selection. What the hell is he doing up there? We're seeing it more and more. You really see it with like the Pistons, like Dumboya. He's not going to be really. You're able to evaluate that guy for 2 more years, and people are out there, making it sound like, at 19 years old, like, oh yeah, we're seeing like this guy's not NBA ready, just like these guys. They weren't ready to be major league pitchers last year. So do they look overrated? I'll agree with you on that. They look like it. Both of them did, especially Mize. When you're talking about 1-1, overall, you're expecting a little bit more. I remember Verlander when he came up in 2005, though, he had those 2 outings, and, he wasn't any good. And you look at him and you say, well, you know what? He was overrated. He looked overrated. So you can't take too much into a first year. But I agree with you, both Skubal and Mize. I mean, some guys do actually go out there when they're rookies and they look fantastic. I mean, that's what you're hoping for. And if they did, would be sitting here talking about, man, these guys look awesome. We're ready to go. Not throwing them out and saying that it's not going to be done. Just saying it wasn't. It was a little mixed bag, and wasn't all that great.
There wasn't really a mixed bag. There wasn't much of a mixed bag.
No, both of them, like there were a few outings that Mize, looked
Like
pretty good.
one.
Just had a bad inning, and it was the same thing with Skubal. Ben had it going, and then had a bad inning here or there. I mean, those are the kind of things that happen with young pitchers. I mean, we've seen it before, so it wasn't all bad. So it was a mixed bag. I'll stay with that. But the best thing you could say about Riley Green and Torkelson and Manning is that we haven't seen them. So so they're ranked just right.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at, I would say that perhaps maybe, and this is obviously, like you said, we haven't seen them play. Maybe Riley Green is underrated a little bit. I think that he should certainly be ahead of Skubal and Mize, but he's 31. He's the lowest of the five. And from what we saw to him out of those practice games that they had at Comerica Park that they showed on FoxSportsDetroit.com, he plays excellent defense. Excellent defense in center field. Great arm, great ball hawk in center field. He's developing his power. I don't see why he shouldn't be in the top 20. Is he still a long ways off from making the majors? Probably. One thing that was interesting, I remember during the summer you were saying, I want to see Spencer Torkelson on the opening day roster. I want him on this team right away. And I was saying, Dennis, no, he hasn't played against any competition since like February. And he's just out of college. He's going up against guys that are, 18 and 19 years old with 5 ERAs in the Pac-12. It's not going to work. And you said, no, he's got to be there. In that article that I just showed everybody, there was also an excerpt from an interview that I guess Al Avila did over the weekend where he made a projection for where Manning, Green, and Torkelson will start the year in 2021. What do you think the starting destinations will be for those three?
Triple A, Double A or Triple A
for all three.
For Torkelson, Green, and
Manning.
I think the Riley Green would be Double A.
All right. Well, here is the result. Earlier this month, Tigers general manager Al Avila predicted Manning will start 2021 in AAA Toledo, Green in AA Erie, and Torkelson in High A West Michigan. I mean, it's a hard transition to go from a metal bat against 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds to a wooden bat against, grown men. And then he was going up against the same guys day after day in the Toledo practice squad thing. When I look at expectations for these guys, my expectation is that we're not going to see Torkelson at all in 2021. If we see Green, it won't be in the first 5 months of the season. Manning, Mize, and Skubal, I think, will all be bouncing up and down between AAA and the majors until if and until they emerge as being legitimate starters. And hopefully they won't just stick on the roster because the Tigers have to throw somebody up there, because they can't have guys with 6 and 7 ERAs all season for 162 games.
Yeah, when it came down to Torkelson, I was hoping for some kind of outlier that could just get out there and it didn't matter. Like, they could just make the jump and he got in there and started hitting bombs.
Yeah.
It's not like that. So, yeah. There's a part of it that sucks, man, because it's like, you'd like to see him, and then they play this game like, nah, maybe, coming up next year. It's like, Jesus Christ, can we see, some of the talent? We'll just mix them in a little bit. Meanwhile, the team sucks.
Well, it sucked because last year we didn't have the minors. So it's not like we could have seen what Torkelson was doing in low A or advanced A. And if he was in advanced A and he was hitting a 230 and he was striking out 1 out of every 3 at-bats, we'd say, oh, yeah, he's not ready. Or if he was in that same class and was hitting 330, we'd say, move him up to Double A. But instead, there were no stats and no video of what was going on when he and Green and everybody else was participating in Toledo. It's just, hey, this hitting instructor in Toledo says that he's giving this guy a thumbs up. That doesn't mean anything.
The rebuilds blow to begin with, but what's this, the 5-year, 6-year plan now?
Avila's not going to get it right.
It's just not going very well. All right, some of the feedback here Keith doesn't like the Michigan updates from Brian. Hey, we're trying to keep you up to date on what's going on. And remember, some people are listening on a podcast, Keith, so just kind of sprinkle them in there. He didn't like that. Keith also mentioning that Hayden Hurst signed with the Falcons. You're right. I was listening to Michael Lombardi today, and he was just recapping the divisional round, and he mentioned Hayden Hurst. It went right over my head, and here I was saying the same thing about him, that you need to get Lamar Jackson some targets at tight end or bigger wide receivers. Of course, Hurst was a first-round pick. Yeah, he's with the Falcons now, so you're right about that. OBJ makes the team worse for the Browns. The Blue Jackets have scored a goal. They lead 1-0. Here's somebody ripping Caputo. All right, there we go. Hey, we started down that road. All right, let's get to the fifth chapter.
Yeah, that takes us to the major wager. This is where we give you some sports betting advice. We'll recap what we gave you on Thursday and then tell you what we're looking for either later today or this weekend. And don't forget to download your mobile sports betting apps right away, because on Friday at noon, legal mobile sports betting in the state of Michigan goes live, and a lot of those companies are giving out free $50 and $100 bets if you sign up before noon on Friday. I'm very excited about that. But Dennis, remind us what you picked last week.
Yeah, well, first I'll remind you that taking it easy and only betting here or there is really the way to go. Not like Chapman betting 5-6 games a night and rolling parlays. Those are all sucker bets, but
just bet what you can afford to lose. Don't go out there and bet hundreds of dollars when you're only making fast food money. If you bet all these parlays or whatever and it's $1 or $2, then it's not that big a deal. It's got to be fun, and you cannot go broke doing it. When people talk,
yeah. I just know this, that I've been around sports gambling my whole life, and I have never seen anybody really win doing it. You might win, have a good weekend here or there, but most of the people, they're betting all the time and they're not winning. And these sports books really have it over you. Anytime I hear somebody talk about this is my record, I got this and that,
nothing but winners.
Yeah, I don't believe any of that. I've seen it, but yeah, I mean it's still fun. I'll sign up. This past week, I had the Saints and the Chiefs. Those weren't very good picks, for me, and the Rams. So I went 1-3. The only one that I ended up picking right was the Bills. It's the one I didn't feel the greatest about. How about that? So
I thought you went 3-1.
That sounds good, but I think if you go back, I'd like to take credit for that, but I know I picked the Rams.
Okay.
And I know I picked the Chiefs. I thought I handicapped that one right. I felt really good about it until they started missing field goals and extra points. And then when Mahomes got hurt, I knew I was in trouble there.
Yeah.
And, I took the Saints, which was a bad selection. I like both of the favorites this weekend, but I'm not going to bet the Chiefs until I see, of course, Mahomes being good to go in that one. But I wouldn't bet the Packers today. I think the Packers, Aaron Rodgers just looks way too good. That first game, they were up 10-0, and they looked like they were going to roll the Buccaneers, and then Bucs just started getting big-time pressure on Aaron Rodgers, completely flipped everything, won the game 38-0. But I just think where Rodgers is at right now, the way he's playing, and being at home, and the crowds are a factor now. 8,000, sound like 80,000. You saw them at Lambeau this past weekend. It's going to be a little bit colder. They're going to be a little bit louder. I think home field advantage is in play, and I don't think the Packers are going to be stopped.
Yeah, that's why at the start of the playoffs I flipped my pick from the Chiefs winning it all to the Packers winning it all, and you add that run game, they're looking unstoppable. I think they're going to dominate the Buccaneers this weekend. On Thursday, I had the Packers covering, and they did. The Bills covering, and they did. The Browns covering, and they did, getting those 10 points. And I had the Saints covering. Only team I didn't get right was the Saints because they lost straight up, but 3-1 is still very good. Tonight, and I did tweet this out before the show, I went with the Red Wings Blue Jackets game. The Red Wings were 1-2 to start the year. I know we got the update that the Red Wings were down 1-0. That's good for my pick because I chose the Blue Jackets on the puck line. And the puck line was 1.5 goals, which is always the case in the NHL, and it's at plus 145. So if the Blue Jackets can win by 2 goals and they're up by 1 already, we know how bad the Red Wings were last year. We know that even if the Blue Jackets are up by the same 1-0 score late in the game, they can add an empty netter. Then all of a sudden, that plus 145 odds looks really good. So I'm going to take the Blue Jackets plus 145 to win by at least 2.
Well, we got an update. Anthony Mantha has just scored his first of the year to tie things up. The leveler, it is 1-1 between the Wings and the Jackets.
Ugh.
There you go. Well, we'll be talking more about sports betting because we'll be on the eve coming up on Thursday's show. Plus, we'll look to Championship Sunday as well. Thanks for watching, rating, and doing all those things, listening to the Fifth Chapter. For Brian Chapman, I'm Dennis Fithian. Thanks to Brian Jelnick as well. We will talk with you on Thursday at 7:30. Good night.
He represents the mitten by way of Penn State. When Chapman gets to talking sports, the people can't wait. He represents the mitten. Be a true EMU, but cut Dennis in the fall, and his veins bleeding blue. They got respect around the state. When that light turns red, so don't sleep on these dudes. Just invite your friends to cut your nap short and tip your cap for and sit back for the Fifth Chapter. Brian Chapman. Dennis Fithian. When they open their mouths, they spitting the facts, bro. This ain't even optional, man. You just have to tune into YouTube to watch the broadcast or download it to your phone to peep the podcast. They mix laughter, they get after. It's all captured in the Fifth Chapter.